call this Finance Committee meeting to order. The first item we have is assignment for request for council action. For Finance, we have 2115 budget amendments, 2116 approve variance for 2020 state audit, municipal court, 2117, 2021 charter review recommendations, 2118 then and now CT Consultants Law Department, 2119 amend salaries and benefits approve agreement Medina TV technical operations position, 2120 extend lease agreement with Williams Scotsman's Municipal Court, 21-121, establish municipal court planning committee ad hoc, 21-122, amend salaries and benefits code 3101, elected official salaries, 21-123, 2022 tax budget, 21-124, bids for job number 1089, 2021 pavement marking program, 21-125, bids for job number 1094, lighting East Reagan Parkway multi-purpose trail, and 21-126, NOACA TLCI grant application for the parks. And for public properties, we have two, 21-127 MCRC marketing discussion and 21-128 Ray Mallard Park capital bill grant. The first item we have is 21-115 budget amendments. It looks like we have several here from the Finance Department. Lori?
Thank you, Mr. President. These are appropriation adjustments to the budget for purchase orders that have already been approved. Just putting the money in place on the budget lines.
Thank you. Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 21-116, approve a variance for the 2020 state audit for the municipal court. We have the clerk of court here, Jules Salzgeber.
We're asking for approval from council for a variance of $621 for the 2020 state audit. As explained in the request for council action, the state audit will typically allow a variance of up to $500, but if it's in excess of $500, they ask that the council take action to approve that variance. In this situation, as you may be aware, transferred our computer software from the old CMI system to the new benchmark system, and we've had quite a difficult time, shall we say, in changeover, which is the way we audit last year. We're attempting to get this done this year on action. We're asking for the variance.
Okay, any questions on that?
I have a question. So if they allow up to $500, why would we not just be paying the difference of 120? Was it 121 is the difference? Where is that at?
$621 variance.
Yeah, so we have a $621 variance, but the auditor's office allows up to $500 for a variance. So can we pay the difference, or do we have to pay the $621?
Let me take that, Joe. We're not paying it. You're accepting the adjustment, and because the adjustment's over $500, it has to come to council.
Gotcha.
The point is that if it's under $500, council wouldn't have to approve it, but you do because it's over.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. The next item we have is 21-117. It is a 2021 charter review recommendations. And I think we have the chairperson, Stacy.
Yes, hello, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President, members of council. First of all, I want to thank you and thank the mayor for selecting us to be part of the charter review. I think I'm going to speak for the rest of the members and let you know that it has truly been an honor to be part of this process. And how we started this process, we asked each of the council members if they had time to come, as well as the mayor, the finance director, and let us know what they thought might be a good amendment in the charter. You work and live within the parameters of the current charter, so we kind of wanted to get some input. We took those ideas, we had some input from some of the residents. We talked about each one of those, and we're very pleased tonight to propose an amendment as well as an addition to the city ordinance. For the charter amendment, we're asking that the finance director position to be appointed versus elected. This has been brought forward to the charter review several occasions. As we know, there's a lot of pros and cons We tried to put the amendment in such a way that we have the benefits, but then also taking into account the perceived risk. So we think with our amendment, we'll be able to keep 3 branches of government that we want, the legislative, judicial, executive. We're able to have this finance position to be more accountable by allowing the majority of council to remove the position if need be. We also feel that having it appointed, the administration would probably move more smoothly, efficiently, with information available when needed. And we try to take into account the risk that if it's perceived to be favoritism or collusion or something, if just the mayor appointed, by having majority approval from the council. And we added the audit committee, whereas the audit committee is a representation of the accounting and business community. So we thought maybe the residents feel they have more of a voice through the audit committee as well as council. So we try to look at not just the current administration of those in those seats, but also just the function of the position, so going forward. Then the change in the city ordinance, we looked at all the boards and commissions that are currently in the ordinance, and we thought that maybe an emerging technology commission would be beneficial to the city, so that we could look at any technological changes that the city could take into account and then draw from the experience and education of maybe some residents that are part of that industry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I guess let's take them in order, I guess. The first one is the recommendation for ballot language, I guess it would be, to take to the voters of the city of Medina whether the finance director's position should be elected or appointed. And I don't know, I've been a proponent for appointment since 2000, I think it was, when I first got on council, but that's just because of my view of government, of what it should be. And Keith and I had a lot of discussions about it, but this was even before he was here. And I guess I look at it, the last time it was on the ballot, I believe, was in 1965, I want to say, or somewhere around there. And it was a pretty close vote for the city. I think it was a 70-vote difference to keep it elected at that time, or a 75-vote difference to keep it elected back in the 60s when it was last on, I think, last on the ballot as a specific issue itself. That's when that occurred. But, you know, everybody has their opinion about the benefits and the burdens of both ways. I've always been a proponent of 3 branches of government as I view it, which includes, you know, just the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. The finance position, to me, you know, I think there's a third of the municipalities in the state of Ohio have elected positions, and 2/3 have appointed positions. So, as you can see, I mean, at least a majority of the state goes with the appointed position, and a minority goes with the elected. But you know, there's arguments on both sides, and it just depends on how everybody feels. So, anybody have any questions or comments regarding the proposed ballot language? And I believe this language will probably have to go through the law director first or something, and then go to the county board of elections to make a determination of what the language exactly will provide, if it passes council.
I think you're correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we did provide him the language ahead of time, just so, you know, look at the draft of it and offer any changes. So at the moment, he received the same version that you received in the agenda, and he didn't see any needs for change at the moment.
Any questions, Mr. Simpson?
As you stated, you've brought this up every 5 years where the Charter Review Commission is seated, and I understand your philosophy behind that, and I respect that. I am one that feels that I'm probably in a minority, but I do feel strongly that it should be an elected position. Again, as I explained to you privately, you know, a small group of people in the city of Medina, and I understand your reasoning again behind it. A small group of people in the city of Medina have convinced a large number of our residents that this body meets with the administration in secret. You know, we're not truthful in what we're saying, and we're not good, wise at spending the taxpayers' dollars. So I would look at this, you know, and if it does make it to the ballot, I would look at it as, you know, those people saying, oh, it's another reason that they're taking our ability to place who we want on there. So I probably will not support that, but I think, I know you spent hours upon hours listening to different people from council and administration, and I really and truthfully do appreciate and respect what you've done, but I would be voting no on this. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Just a clarification real quick. Currently, Director of Finance is the only department head position that is elected, correct? The rest are mayoral appointments?
I guess if you view the finance department as somebody that's a director.
Yeah.
But the finance department, yeah, that's the elected position. The director, as you would call it, is elected in that department.
Okay, so that's the only one that's not a mayoral appointment.
Yes, I think you're right, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Bill?
First, I want to thank you for your work, and I had the opportunity to come and speak, which it's great that we are our community has such a robust participation, you know, of folks in city government and willing to help out. That speaks well not only of your group, but I think of the city generally. I am in favor of your proposal. I don't want to repeat everything that the President Council said, but similarly, you know, we are a three-branch government, and in my experience here, it's always been evident to me that the mayor, because we have an elected mayor, I would probably feel differently if we had if we had a city manager. But since we have an elected mayor and the responsibility for a pretty vast number of services that are all linked directly to financing and an administration that the finance director it's better suited for the operation and to provide services to have the finance director serve under the mayor, appointed by the mayor. I think that would make this municipal business. I think your expectation would be that it would run well. It could run well, and I'm confident that will happen. But I appreciate your work and the work of your entire committee, and thank you for it.
Any other questions?
Mr. President?
Mr. Rose?
Thank you, Mr. President. Stacy, thank you to you and the team. You did a real good job in bringing this all together. I know you didn't leave too many stones unturned in not only these two that you brought to us, but other items that were brought up, so thank you. I, too, agree with President of Council on this. In my years in the private industries, every corporation that I worked for had an appointed finance director by a committee of some sort and then approved by the board of directors. We are the board of directors of the city. The mayor is the CEO. This is in that vein. This is the same thing. For those who are concerned about the director of finance doing things that are politically motivated, there's one thing that everybody has to keep in mind. There's a set of rules that have to be followed, established by the state as far as accounting goes. Funds in and out, how much we're allowed to spend, how much we're not allowed to spend, et cetera. Those same rules will give scrutiny to the person, whoever that person is. So they follow the rules, you know, there's not going to be a problem. They don't follow the rules, they're going to get fired. Plain and simple. And it's not going to be, it's going to be cut and dried. There's going to be a set of facts and ruled on by council or whomever that board is. So, Keith, nothing against you. It's been here since day one, since I started with John and Cindy way back when. And I hope you're the first one to apply for it if this goes forward. Okay? And I hope you win this election coming up, because you will be running for this one. Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Shields?
Mr. Coyne, I just want to thank Stacy. I know everybody has. We appreciate the work of the committee, a great group cross-section of residents. And I guess I always look at it as we owe a lot of deference to that committee. It's made up of residents. They bring these ideas. All we're doing is deciding then to put that in front of the voters. And ultimately, it is up to the voters. So I do support bringing this to the voters. And I just thank you all for your work on this, because I know it was a lot of meetings and a lot of hours and well thought out and well researched before you brought anything to us. So thank you.
Mrs. Hazeltine?
Thank you, Mr. President. Currently, there's a very specific set of qualifications that our finance director needs to have. So if we change that to an appointed position, would that remain in place, or would it be at the mayor's discretion what the qualifications are?
Let's ask the committee what their recommendation or discussion was on that issue.
We would recommend that those are still qualifications that they would follow, and I think that's what bringing the audit committee within there, the audit committee made up of accountants would know that they are qualified based on their education, you know, the resume that they would bring forward.
Okay.
So they can make the proper decision. That's why we liked having that audit committee part of that.
So the current qualifications would remain the qualifications for the position?
But it's up to the appointment of the mayor and approval
Okay.
of council and the audit committee.
I think
so
there'll
that
be
those would-
guidelines is what.
Right.
Yeah.
is what the
I was
guidelines
just
are.
wondering about these
Yeah.
specific qualifications that are listed there now, whether we would keep those or whether it would be up to the mayor.
I think we were not keeping those in the language, so
Okay.
it would be up to the mayor. And that brings me to a question to the audit committee that you talked about. This is existing audit committee under our code, and I don't recall how they are appointed, but what you're doing now is you're having elected officials make a decision, but you're also requiring certain appointed officials to make a decision. So it's going to have to be a majority of vote of council
Right.
and a majority of vote of the members of the audit committee.
Right.
And I just wanted to see what kind of discussion was with respect to having a non-elected official making a decision. You know, because that gives, for the first time, I think, in the city, a committee a lot of power that's
Right.
not elected.
That's true. That's a good point. And the reason we wanted that was more the expertise, you know, is the mayor a CPA? No. Is anyone on the council maybe a CPA? But then we have that definite expertise knowing that they are qualified, but also having more voice for the voters. So it's not just council and mayor, you know, so trying to get away from that con that keeps coming up with being appointed. So it's getting out more of a voice of the voters. And that was a body that seemed educated and it fit to be able to help with the selection.
And I just want to be clear, the way I read this, or maybe we
Right.
should make it clear, it's not a majority of both committees combined, it's a majority of each separate committee.
Right.
Okay, I mean, that may be something, because when I read this, I know there's a word "and" in there. It says the majority of the members of council and the audit committee.
Right.
Does that mean a majority of the members of, there's 11 people, or does it mean a majority of council first and then a majority of the audit second?
Right. And I guess we said "and," meaning them combined, but I see your point. If we feel more comfortable being separate, the committee
Well, I
would
mean,
not
I just
have
want
a
to be
problem
clear,
with that.
when we put the language out,
Right.
either it's going to read a majority of members of council and a majority of members of audit committee.
Right.
The way you wrote it, if there's 12 of us or 13 of us, it's just a majority of the 13.
Right. I think it'd rather be of each one individually.
separate?
Yeah.
And that's what I brought up, that gives them a lot of power.
Right.
Because if they don't vote for it and council wants it, it doesn't
Right.
happen.
But they might see that they actually don't have any accounting degree. You know what I mean? Like that's where we wanted that expertise and.
No, I get it, I just want to make
Yeah.
sure that everybody understands what that means.
Well, right.
Yes, Bill?
Do you know who appoints that committee?
I was going to ask that, there's different people appointed, I think council appoints one, the mayor appoints somebody, I think Keith, the finance director, no, you don't appoint, it's just the mayor and the council? I can't remember off the top of my head how that goes.
I only have the duties.
I don't have it in front
have-
of me either, but I'm pretty sure it's a member of council and then appointee of each.
Appointee of each, okay.
So the committee, I guess the idea that council could want the person, but for some reason, the committee could decide they don't meet the criteria. But realistically, if in fact one member is from council and the mayor appoint, that generally doesn't seem like that would be too hard to work out because you're kind of,
Right.
it's relatively in-house. On the other hand, it does give you some folks who are not elected to council, not the mayor, to lend their expertise. So
Right.
that seems workable to me.
Okay. I just want to make it clear, because you can read this two ways, and I know the word "and" is in there, but I don't want the public to be confused. There, because you could read it, well, maybe it's just majority member councils and a majority, maybe we just got to be clear, the collective majority of both council and the audit committee, or something like that.
Kathy's got a point.
Well, John, now I'm confused.
The audit committee is
I'm
appointed
thinking
by all
that-
by council.
All by council? Okay.
So this needs to be changed to say, in order to be clear, a majority of the members of council and a majority of the audit committee. In order for
That's
this,
the opposite. I think that what Stacy wanted would be a majority of the collective members of council and the audit committee.
so it's all together?
That's what I understand.
Like, I think we were saying this up,
Well,
and
really-
majority and majority. Like
So
the
two separate.
So you want two separate majorities?
Right.
Okay, you were correct, Mr.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so confusing. We got to.
Well, I guess the council needs to think about that because that gives a lot of power to an audit committee that other committees don't really have. And it's up to you as to whether you want to do that or not.
Yes.
But frankly, it may be better if the audit committee makes a recommendation, but that the council makes
Yes.
the call. That's typically how these matters are handled.
Yeah.
Well, and then Bill brought the point up that we appoint the audit committee, and I understand the dichotomy that you have there, but I understand what you're saying. Elected officials usually have the ultimate say.
Correct.
And this is the first time we've ever had somebody that may have a committee that's not made up of elected officials having power of elected official.
Right.
Mr.
Now, if
President.
you want to do that, that's your prerogative, but just
Right.
Well, that's what we're discussing, yes. Mrs. Hazeltine?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would prefer, it's my preference, that the audit committee would give their recommendation, and then council would make the final say. And that is not to say that I don't believe that the residents' opinions matter or anything like that. It's just that I feel like we've never before given a committee that much power over someone we appoint. So when the mayor appoints someone and we approve the appointment, there's no committee that tells us, well, if they don't vote for it, then, it's not going to happen.
Right.
Understood. Now, Stacy, what was kind of the discussion of the committee, I guess? Because you had 15 members of your committee. What was kind of the idea? Because you just mentioned it was separate. Was there a lot of discussion on that issue?
No, the reason it was brought just to have more of the voters say. So it's, we're taking it out of the election, so we still wanted that benefit of having a voice out there and not that, oh, it's just the mayor's neighbor, buddy is being appointed and he's going to manage our money, like all that fear.
Yeah.
So trying to have another body representing the voters. So based on that, the committee would be fine if it is a recommendation. Just having that voice would be helpful to take away that fear.
So we would want to see something, Mr. Huber, like a majority of members of council with the consideration of the recommendation of the audit committee or something like that.
That would be fine.
Because, Mr. President, I would think that,
Or with the consideration of the audit committee's recommendation. That's probably worded.
I would think that if the audit committee comes with any recommendation to council, they're going to have facts to back up their recommendation.
Right.
And we would be reviewing those facts and being able to discern whether, yeah, they're correct, no, they're not. And then council would be making a decision then based on that. So there still would be a voice.
Yep.
Okay,
I think that
and we
makes
would
sense.
be executing that voice, if you will, or that decision, or that, based on, if the facts bear out.
True. I mean, they're made up of accountants and they're made up of professionals in the field.
Right.
They would know different items and different aspects that council may not know
Right.
at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We wouldn't be mandated to have to accept their
Well, that's why I said
Yeah.
with consideration of the audit committee's recommendation.
Okay.
That way, so if we worded
Yeah.
it differently, it might be a mandate, but if we say with the consideration, I think that works.
I prefer that.
Any other questions? Are you okay with that? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we'll do that modification, Mr. Huber, and see then if everybody's acceptable to that on council. If everybody agrees to that, it sounds like they might, the way I'm hearing it. You see if the Board of Elections, what they recommend. Because I think it has to be filed by August 4th, I think, if we wanted to put it on the ballot in November. Is that correct, Kathy? Yes, okay. So that's the way it would work. Anybody else have any questions or comments on that one? Do I have a motion to approve as modified?
Move to approve as modified.
Second?
Any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next item we have then to look at is not something that's going to go on the ballot, but something that's going to be established within the city as another committee, and it's going to be the establishment of the I guess, the Technology Committee. Now, we have a Technology Committee on council already that makes the decisions. Is this committee going to make recommendations then to that committee on something that needs to be done or should be addressed? Is that kind of the plan of this committee?
I think this was more, the board and commission, so it's not just a council committee. So then it would have members that are part of the community that are, either working in the industry or educated in that industry, being able to provide, and we just said a recommendation function.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And I'm just trying to figure out the recommendation that comes out of that committee, would that go then to the council's committee for legislative action or policy action?
Right, right.
Okay, that's how that would work. So, I mean, Paul, you talked about this, talking about it more in your committee to make sure that you encompass everything and all the members and everything that the Charter Review Commission wants. I mean, what do we want to do?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. Again, Stacy, thank you, and to the team. This is something that we definitely need to be current on. I retired in 2018. You know how much new technology has, in 3 years, just, I've lost it. Okay, thank God we got Darren. Okay, seriously. I like the intent of this. It is a good thing. I think there's a couple of tweaks, first of all, with the title. It has to, I think we should include advisory into that. And then as far as titles of people to be added to the committee, I think we need to be a little more specific. For example, a person, city official appointed by the mayor, I think should say, I forget what Darren's title is, but whatever Darren's title is, we should have that title. And that's why I would like to take this back to the committee so we can discuss those particular things. Look at the count of people. You start making this thing too big, and next thing you know, nothing's going to happen because, oh, I can't be there on Tuesday. I can be there on Thursday. And, that type of thing. And I get a little bit of heartburn when you say non-residents.
Got it.
I can understand why.
Right.
But maybe we hone that in a little bit.
No problem.
But other than that, I think it's a good thing, and it will definitely help the city.
Perfect.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
So I'll try to schedule a time when the people can get together, and we'll work it out.
All right.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have any other questions on that? Is everybody okay with having Paul look at that a little closer on the committee? I do kind of agree with some of Paul's comments regarding advisory and looking at the number and the functionality of it, but I do agree that the technology changes so fast, we need people to advise us beyond those that work for the city of things that are happening out there that we may just be unaware of. I mean, I think currently Darren does a great job, and Jared, with the information that they get regarding all the different technologies, both from an audiovisual and a computer, and but there may be other things that people can, shed light on them and may be helpful to us. It's okay. So I guess we'll just put that in your committee and have a meeting, then bring it back to council and pass it.
Right.
It sounds like.
Okay. All right.
Is that okay
Thank you.
with you, Stacy? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, that's how we'll handle that second one. Oh, Mayor Hamel?
Just one thing for the folks that are watching at home, just maybe we should have started with this. I apologize. I was shutting the TV off and a couple other things here. The charter review in the city is every 5 years. The charter of the city is reviewed, and it's comprised by 5 members selected by the mayor, 5 members selected by council, and then those 10 members select another 5 for a total of 15. And the preference by ordinance is at least, this is off the top of my head, a certain number of members have to be from the prior Charter Review Commission. And we do our best each year to 5. Somebody raise their hand. Oh, I'm sorry. I think it's 5. But in any event, so that there's some consistency with what was done in the past and as we're moving into the future. So just for the benefit of the public, I thought that was the parameters. And then they, with Stacy being elected chair, they went through the entire charter, and this is the result of their months of work and review. And I appreciate everybody's efforts as well. Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you, and thank the other members of the Charter Review for their efforts. And, we'll leave it up to the voters to decide the finance issue, and then we'll go to the committee, and it seems like that'll be adopted. There may be some slight modifications to make sure we have the proper individuals on the city who are in charge of the technology on that committee for sure, because they'll probably know the most.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you. Any other questions? All right. We're going to 21-118, a then and now for CT consultants for the law department. Mr. Huber? Just you or Keith?
I just received a bill from David Hart, who is our expert witness in the zoning litigation involving JoJo's. That case was resolved without going to court, so we didn't need to have Mr. Hart testify, but he did prepare a report. Apparently, there was no PO for the payment of the bills, so that's what the then and now is about.
Any questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause?
Second, including emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 21-119, Medina TV technical operations position. Jared in the back.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a partnership position between the City of Medina and Medina City Schools for this technical operations director. The schools are looking to add some, expand the role and add some responsibilities to that position and compensate accordingly. This position is split 40 hours per pay, 40 hours for the Performing Arts Center, 40 hours for Medina TV. So they are looking to add those changes to his job responsibilities. Those have gone to civil service and was passed through civil service. Was also passed through our Access Committee back in May. And the salary, I guess, with the shared position, the salary is covered by the Medina City School District. The city covers the benefits side of that position. So the reflected additional cost for the city would roughly be $3,800 in the compensation for 2022. You'll see the $1,900 there just to reflect the remainder of 2021, as we are looking to have this go into effect July 1st of 2021. So hence the emergency clause that is attached with that also. That goes into effect with the beginning of the school year for the school calendar and will assist with that side of the role of the responsibilities of the position. I was trying to look to see what else. We also, at the same standpoint, did a little house cleaning at the same time, updated the agreement that we have with the city and schools to reflect the more updated numbers and dates that are in there. And then you also have the attached job description that was changed in civil service. I think that covers all of it. I would also ask that we would make this pending the law director's approval as well, if we could.
Thank you. Any questions?
No, only comment, since it does involve my employer, I'll need to abstain on this.
Move to approve?
Second.
Subject to the law director's approval?
Subject to the law director.
And with
Excuse
the
me.
emergency clause.
And the emergency clause.
All right, we got
I'll
that
get
on.
that right.
My second includes the law director's approval and emergency clause.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Abstain.
Oh, any abstentions? Sorry. I keep forgetting about that. You always sneak that in me. Next one is 21-120, extend lease agreement with Williams Scotsman's for the Muni Court. Cindy?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the building currently that we do our check-ins on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays to make sure that the foot traffic in the court is monitored very carefully, that we don't have overcrowding in front of the clerk's office and in both courtrooms. And we're requesting the emergency clause because the current lease is now expired. We're kind of on a month-to-month, but we want to make sure we can at least lock it in to this rate.
Any questions?
Mr. President?
Mr. Rose?
Is this in any way related to COVID?
We had this building since COVID. We're no longer doing temperatures out there since the mandate has been lifted, but we have found that monitoring the traffic it helps the court a lot. It keeps defendants and visitors and attorneys from just overcrowding in front of the clerk's office because there is just no space in that court at this time.
Okay, thank you. Keith, is this possible that these, any of our money coming in from the federal government can be used to cover this?
We paid for some months of this out of the CARES fund.
Up to last year, yeah.
Already, but the CARES fund money could only pay for part of it because it had, of the deadline and when it had to be spent. So I assume that this will be eligible for ARP funding, but that will be pending the legal review, and then council's allocation of those funds. So I think that we can, but it's not a guarantee that we will.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including the emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 21-121, establish a muni court planning committee ad hoc. I've submitted this request in. I think we're to a new phase in the muni court planning. As you know, the city residents passed the last language that we had on the ballot regarding us moving into the 1969 courthouse at the county facility. And I think we probably should have a committee together, as the county had a committee with the planning with the city and the county together, just to move this forward and make sure everybody's on the same page with respect to the agreement with the county, the costs that is going to be incurred by the city with respect to the development of the court, and of course the development of the court itself. So I suggested that the Judge Werner, Clerk of Court Salzgeber, the Mayor, and 2 members of council serve on this committee to keep it small, 5 workable, that the meetings can be had, you know, with the county, and we don't have to try to get everybody together to accomplish those meetings. So I guess I just asked council what your thoughts are, who should serve on the committee, what do you want to do?
Mr. Coyne, I think it's a good idea. I support it. I do like the idea of 5, and I would definitely feel you probably need to be one of those 2 members.
Yes, I agree.
Who else?
Looks like,
I mean, I guess I've been on from the beginning, so I know a lot, I
Yeah.
guess, but
I am willing to be on it, but I will defer if somebody else has an interest.
I
know
mean,
Debbie-
I am always interested in new committees, so, new kid on the block, so you'd have to, help me
I don't want to
along.
have a fight over it, but I mean, somebody, I guess the person on the committee, probably somebody, right, that has an interest, has a knowledge about the history of it. Nothing against you, Mrs. Hazeltine, but this has been going on for 20 years, and there's a lot of moving parts with it, and we want the diversity of opinion with respect to certain items on it, so I don't know. Mr. Lamb?
I built the court, and I think you're right. I think we need somebody with background and experience, and Jess, not that you wouldn't be great, but
No, it's
as
fine.
well, I think it makes a lot of sense, and I would second the idea that I think that Councilman Shields would be really a logical choice, I think, to work on it.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so it'll be those 5 members, and then what we'll do is try to set up meetings to keep it moving, the ball moving. Now, as you know, that at least as far as our involvement with respect to any type of moving into the 1969 building will not occur until after the county, of course, moves out into their new facility. But that doesn't prohibit us from making the plans ahead of time and getting everything teed up, so to speak, that once they move out, that we can be in a position to start the renovations that meet our needs and desires with respect to our court operations and clerk operations in that building. So, if anybody has any other questions, is there a motion to approve the committee as selected?
Move to approve?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next one is 21-122. This is the elected official salaries, and I think Keith brings this up every so often to talk about. So, Keith?
This is in front of you because we have elections this fall, and by operation of city charter and state law, we have to set salaries for elected positions prior to the filing deadline for those positions. So for council members, that means for those that are up this year, the salaries have to be set for their entire terms, the entire 4 years at this time. And then for the mayor and finance director, those salaries have to be set again for the entire term. If you want to keep council salaries even, so trying to think ahead here, if you're thinking of increasing council salaries in 2 years, you would need to do that now, but not to take effect for 2 years so that everybody goes up at the same time. You understand what I mean? Because all of them would have to go through an election cycle before the raise took effect. So if you wanted to increase council salary without, as we have sometimes in the past, creating a situation where some council members are paid more than others, you could increase council salaries now, effective in 2 years, and then it wouldn't take effect until all of you had been through an election cycle. I gave you some comparisons. That's what you usually ask for, so I just got it for you in advance. I don't know what else you need. The big thing with respect to the council salaries is two things. First of all, in order to earn full credit in PERS, I listed the amounts that you have to earn going forward per OPERS's website. And I just want to tell you, this is from OPERS's website. They could change it tomorrow, so don't hold me to these numbers, but these were the numbers on their website when I checked. You see there that starting in 2027, which is beyond the 4 years that we're looking at right now, but that minimum, or not, I guess not till 2028, that minimum will go over what the current amount is for council members. That's not a huge deal because there is partial credit towards pension for the council members. There is, however, no partial credit towards health care. So council members are currently earning under the minimum, which the minimum per OPERS is $1,000 a month to earn credit towards health care in retirement. And council members, even though they're earning most of $1,000 a month, they're earning 0 credit towards health care because unlike the pension where there's partial credit, on the health care side, there is no partial credit. So I guess those are the parameters of the discussion for those, and then you can see how you compare across.
Any questions? Mrs. Hazeltine?
Thank you, Mr. President. Are these gross or net?
This is gross.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and typically, I did need to throw this in, typically, I ask that you make the council salaries equally divisible by 12 because we pay you once a month and we don't want to have to make a change in the payroll system in December to straighten out the odd dollar amounts. And then we also make the mayor and finance directors equally divisible by either 27 or 26 cents, depending on how many payrolls there are in that year, so that, again, it's the same pay for the whole year and we don't have to tweak the system in December to add a penny or subtract a penny.
If I remember correctly, the last time we went through even, all the different salary adjustments on council and administration, there was a committee established that gave us a recommendation after their review of everything of what those salaries should be. And I kind of like that. I mean, it's never good to set your own salary, but I know the state does it and the federal government does it, but I don't think we should do it. I think the recommendation by the committee was appropriate, and they told us what we should be being paid for the job that we are doing and what they felt was fair based upon the surrounding communities in Medina and other areas, both at the council level and the mayor and the finance director level. So I kind of stick with that. If we want to make a change later on, I think maybe we put a committee together again in a few more years and make the determination. And when it does change, or when the state changes their rules with respect to how much money you have to make to stay in the quote-unquote system, we address it at that time, or maybe we don't. I don't know how everybody feels about that. Mr. Simpson?
I believe the last time, Stacy, correct me if I'm wrong, it was the Charter Review Commission that made the recommendations. Okay. So that would be another 5 years, and I'm not sure what.
Danny, you're right about the people, but we pulled them in special for this.
No, I'm just saying, if we waited another 5 years for that, or I mean, for the next charter review, or we could do the same as we did the last time, pull them into.
For a special.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Time, just a reminder, timeline-wise, you have to do this before the filing deadline, which is that August 4th date that we talked about earlier. So your last meeting before that is the July council meeting.
Right, if we wanted to change the numbers as they exist today. That's for the new people, that's what Keith's saying. But I don't know, does anybody want to change them? I don't know. Mr. Heffinger?
Just want to start off by saying that this won't affect me at all because I'm not running for re-election. But I think what Keith is saying makes a lot of sense to raise it to the $1,000 a month because there are a lot of people that want to be involved in city politics and whatnot, but financially this is a strain on their time and whatnot. There should be some sort of perk or benefit working into their health care, all these things he talked about that should be there for those people because, especially if he's talking about postponing this for 2 years but passing it so it's there and it's ready for everybody. We don't know who's going to be on this council in the future, so it's kind of making it for them as opposed to saying for us.
Understood. And I guess the question I have for Keith, we don't have to pass it now to make it effective in 2 years. We have to pass it prior to the election in the year in which the person's being elected.
Right. What I'm saying.
Oh, you shut your mic.
Pardon me. Right, but if you want all of council's salaries to go up in 2 years,
Right.
you need to pass it now, because the members who are elected this year can't have a midterm increase if you made that decision 2 years from now.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, yes,
And that's what happened the last time.
right. It did happen.
Mr. President, this healthcare coverage that you refer, that's for retirement only. That's not for.
Right, that's, you wouldn't be on the city's health care plan if you suddenly went to $1,000 a month, but PERS does not give you credit towards health care in retirement for any month in which you earn less than $1,000.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make that clear that it wasn't for, you wouldn't get health care.
Not
as an
today,
active
but that's
member.
still really important to build up for the retirement.
And I do agree with you for those who who are working in the PER, in the OPERS system. Okay, that I agree with, but most of us here have day jobs outside of government. We have our health care provided for once you hit 65 by Medicare or by your employer, okay, or something thereof. You know, for members of like John, Jim, and I, and Denny, I don't know, Denny, I don't remember how your status is, but $1,000 a month would mean nothing for me because I've got my previous employer and I have Medicare. And that would be the case for anybody who comes in from the private sector to work here.
But I
as
do
counsel.
agree with Eric's, this is time consuming, so for, you know, for people that would be considering it, say, you know, people who have an interest, but they have a part-time job where they're making X amount of dollars, they would really love to do this, you know, maybe looking 2 years in the future would benefit. I mean, I kind of agree with you with that. That's not why any of us signed up for
Mm-hmm.
No, I was going to say, I don't do it for the money. I do it because I want to.
Yeah, we're definitely not going to get, at
And that's-
$9,000 a year, or what is it? $8,000 a year, $9,000 a year.
Yeah.
We're not going to get rich.
No.
Well,
That's for sure.
Even bumping it up to 12 is, you know, that's poverty level beyond. So, I mean, like, this is not going to be somebody's only job, but if you're doing
Yeah.
the work, I believe that you deserve the compensation for doing the work.
Agreed, and that's why I believe that the compensation, the monthly salary compensation should always be at the minimum at least the minimum to earn the credit for the pension benefit, okay? But as far as medical,
I mean, we're
I don't know
part-time,
that-
right?
Pardon?
I said this position is not full-time, it's part-time,
Correct.
right?
Correct. It is
Benefits
part-time.
aren't normally offered to a part-time person anyway,
Exactly,
correct?
exactly, unless you,
Well, yeah.
unless you can document over 30 hours a week or something like that.
I probably could, but.
But, yeah, you have to document it. I don't know, I question really the, you know, the value. I can see where some people, yes, it would benefit. Other people, I don't know that it would benefit them, because this position here should not be one to help. You shouldn't, I don't know, how should I say, you should be here for service, and not for your
Paycheck.
paycheck.
They did that.
Right, thank you. I was trying not to be so blunt, but thank you. All right.
I
That's
got
the
your
way
back, Paul.
I view it, and, you know, the one thing, I don't know that we would achieve the outcome we want with bumping it up to 1,000 a month to get the medical down the road. And how many years do you have to have at $1,000 a month to get that medical? Keith, is it 20 or 30?
We don't manage the PRS system, so I don't have that on the top of my head. I know that it depends on your age at retirement. That's part of it, because if you, you have to have, and there's different groups right now too, because initially, it used to be 30 and out for everybody, but then they, that's only for people who have enough seniority to be in that group, and then people that don't, it's 32 years and a minimum age of 57. But then at 27 years, I think you can retire at, but you have to have a certain age. You understand what I mean?
In other words,
So-
you have to be reelected many times.
Yeah, you're not
For this
gonna-
$1,000 a month to
Right, you're not,
benefit you.
right, it's not like you're gonna serve one term and then get get medical in
Yeah,
retirement.
this is not Congress.
No, you're going to have at least, because you're going to have at least, I think, 27 years, and even at that, I think you have to be 62, so it's not, and don't quote me on those numbers, because I don't have that in front of me, I can look it up. But
You're not far off from, it's going to be multiple reelections for a person to be able to benefit for that.
The more likely scenario is probably somebody who has other public service somewhere else, either before or after. Because if you had military time, then you can bring that into the system. If you had time working in a school, or if you had time, you were an RA in college, or you ended up becoming another elected position that was higher paid down the road, then this would accumulate with that. So that's probably, I mean, to get it from council, you'd have to be on council a really long time.
Mr. Coyne, how long have you been in council?
A really long time.
He doesn't need the medical benefits.
I'd have to wait 22 years before I was 62 and be eligible for any of this.
And I don't know if it was John or Bill or who said that, this would be a good thing to maybe call the charter review back and let them make the decision or a recommendation like
We
they
don't
did
have enough
last
time, though, do we?
Sure you do.
We have to pass before August.
Yeah,
Well,
we can pass
no, that's only if you want everybody to be paid the same, and I don't think we've ever
Okay.
always been paid the same.
No,
Bill?
Anyway, one way probably to get people interested in being on council would be if we were to have term limits. And Eric, because I disagree with you rarely, but this time I do. I don't think that the pay is what drives or would discourage people from coming on council. I think simply the fact that we're having a discussion about longevity with regard to pensions says more about the idea of maintaining these seats for a very long time, or the value to an individual of that, than it does to any discouragement to somebody who would want to be on city council but wouldn't come because the salaries currently are too low. In the 18 years I think I've been at City Hall, I have never voted for a pay raise, vetoed pay raises, and the only pay raise I really ever voted for on City Council was the pay raise for the mayor, as I recall, because that position deserves a pay raise. And if it was up to me to make a recommendation, I guess I would want to put the emphasis actually on our public service, because every time we've had this discussion, the commentary has been nobody's here to do this for the money, but then we raise the pay. And I think that that's compounded now by the conversation about longevity and pensions. I would prefer that we looked at whatever we get in pay would more like a stipend, and let the stipend be set and let it be, let's lower the pay to $500 a month, and everybody gets $500 a month, and leave it at $500 a month, because none of us are here for the money. And if you're here for a pension, then maybe you would be here too long, and we should work to get more people interested in serving on city council, and we could do that if we had term limits.
I was not inclining that you had, of saying that this should be raised so that everybody here would stay for 20-some years, but I think that side of the table's thoughts are a little different than, someone our age, because you guys already know what your career was and where you're going, right?
I like the was.
But I'm thinking, I still don't know. I've got a long time before I retire, right? And again, I'm saying this as a person that's not going to be in this seat in the next couple months, right? I don't know where I'm going to be. So could I work more for a city? This city, some other city? I don't know. Could I, teach? Military time could be my past. Like, all those things combined equal a better retirement for yourself. So I don't know whether it's going to take me the next 20, 30 years. I'm not at the end of the cycle where I'm like, well, I didn't work in that for that long, so this won't affect me. And I'm not saying that, council's going to be my whole life kind of thing. It could just be a part of somebody's life, and this could help them along the way.
I guess I don't look at this as an opportunity to help myself or for people to help themselves along the way. You could be a 95-year-old grandpa, or you can be a 22-year-old just starting out. And to me, it would make no difference. Our expectation is that we would simply be here to do these things that we do now to the benefit of the community, and we wouldn't have bridled that with pensions and pay raises and a discussion that takes an inordinate amount of time, like this one did, and the one before that gave us the pay raise that I voted against took an inordinate amount of time to arrive at, because we have other things to do.
Well, it sounds like we're not going to solve this tonight.
Mr. Coyne, if I could.
Mayor?
So just to Bill's point, the charter review was asked to look at term limits and decided not to recommend that, just to be clear with that. And then the second thing is on Keith's comparison for both the public and for the council's benefit. I don't know about Strongsville. Brunswick, the city manager is also the safety director. Medina, the mayor is also the safety director. Wadsworth has a full-time mayor and a full-time safety director, and Worcester has a full-time mayor and a separate person, full-time, that's a term director of administration. So they run the administration over and above what the mayor does. So just when you're looking at these numbers, understand that it may not be all incorporating of them versus us. Thank you.
Well, it sounds like, I mean, I don't know, but it sounds like most of the members of council don't want to make the decision on their own. They rather have, like we did in the past, a third party body of people make the recommendation to what they believe is best for the city because they're part of the city. So, I mean, if I hear something different, I guess I would say we do nothing unless somebody has a big, eager, really wants to put something on the table to vote on.
When you say do nothing, you mean no salary increases for the...
No action.
This year, correct.
For this year, including the finance director and
Correct.
mayor. Okay, so in 2022, what these numbers are, that's what they're going to be? Is that how this is? Or
Correct.
do these, okay.
Except for the cost of living adjustments that occur for the mayor and the finance director, but oh, you guys don't?
That's not the way it works.
Oh, you guys,
No.
only the department heads, well, okay.
These salaries are, these salaries are in the code as these dollar amounts. There aren't cost of living, there's nothing in there to increase this at all.
Oh, that's right,
So
okay.
at least for the mayor and the finance director, I would recommend that we give some sort of cost of living,
Yeah.
similar to what we give the other salaried members of the city administration. You know, whether it's 2%, 3%, whatever that percentage is, it should be comparable to that.
Thoughts on that?
Sorry.
Hold on. The mayor was asking me this. I don't think, and this is probably more of a Greg question, but I don't think that you can just say it goes up by whatever percentage the rest of them do.
What I'm saying is we take these numbers, add 2%. This is for the next
Okay,
year,
I
add 2%.
thought you were saying
Yeah,
we were just
would
going to match it,
codify it.
and I don't think we can.
No,
So
you're correct, Keith. You have to set it.
Right, but we would codify what those numbers are.
you can pick a percentage and put it in, but you can't just say, okay.
Right.
Thoughts?
So I agree with whatever we decide to do, percentage, COLA raise for the finance director and for the mayor. But as far as myself and this whole discussion about council member salary, I'm on the work till I die plan anyway, so none of the retiring stuff really affects me that much. And like I said, that could remain the same indefinitely, and it would not affect me.
I'm okay with the 2 full-time positions being reviewed, and I probably prefer the Charter Review Commission do it.
Right. Being reviewed, so we
For a
can make...
recommendation.
For a recommendation, we would have to pass that, it'd have to be well, I guess we have to pass it before, I think August 4th, before the filing deadline.
You would need an emergency clause if it was at the July meeting, because it has to take effect, I'm pretty sure that it has to take effect before the filing deadline.
So you'd want the Charter Review Committee to meet one time in the next couple weeks to make a determination on what you would want to do. Is that something that is doable?
I think our members could do that.
Okay, so Stacy, I put it in your court to see if you can get them together and take a look at the salaries for the mayor and I guess the finance, and they can look at the other council members if you'd like, but as you heard from council, they're really not interested.
Right.
But at least except for Eric was interested.
He's leaving, so.
Oh, he's in, so that's kind of, so if you could check that out, and
yeah.
any recommendation that you would have, just let us know, and then we could, if there is a recommendation, we can take action on it prior to
Okay.
the July meeting.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank
Could
you.
do that, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to 21-123, 2022 tax budget. Keith?
We'll have details at the next meeting on this, I believe.
Okay. 21-124, bids for job number 1089, 2021 pavement marking program. Pat?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a project, an annual project we started a couple years ago to take over the long line painting, which is center lines and edge lines, and the intersection pavement markings, stop bars, crosswalks, to help the street department. In the past, we've always used $50,000, and that's what we're asking for again this year.
Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 21-125, bids for the job number 1094, lighting East Reagan Parkway multipurpose trail.
Thank you. As you know, right now, we're under construction with the East Reagan Parkway Trail. Within that project, we're putting in a good amount of conduit, not the entire length that this lighting project will use, but the idea is once that's completed, we'll follow up with this lighting project. As I mentioned, a total of 23 lights will be installed. They will all be on the south side, which is the side of on the trail, spaced approximately 150 feet apart. It varies due to different obstacles, but basically about 150 feet apart. The lights will be LED, and they'll look similar to the lights we have in many of our neighborhoods, the Colonial Post top 13-foot high lights.
Good. We've been waiting a long time for that.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, and I should mention that we are getting from the state of Ohio a capital grant for a little over $119,000 towards this project.
Good. Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 21-126, NOACA TLCI Planning Study Grant Application for the Parks. Who's handling this? Kimberly?
Thank you, Mr. President. An area of concern that was recently brought to our attention are the increasing number of people walking along Lake Road. In conversations with the business community in the industrial corridor, a multi-purpose path trail connection from Chippewa Rail Trail to the University of Akron campus headed south and up Lake Road headed north to the Lester Rail Trail would be of interest to them. I think you're aware, but for all of council's benefit, we did bring this item to some of our Economic Development Committee meetings where we have been discussing the possibility of applying for this grant to do this study. So additionally, Jansen Worley and Jonathan Mendel and I have been having meetings with the Medina County Parks Director, Nate Epic, and his team, who are also supportive of this effort. The TLCI program provides support for multimodal transportation planning as well as implementation of those recommendations from those studies. We are anticipating this annual application to be announced this August with a deadline to apply most likely in October. So we really wanted to get this on council's agenda just to at least discuss it before you all go on break. The planning study would look at all of the multi-purpose trails in the city with the connection to the county parks trails and identify those gaps for future projects. And so in talking with Jansen, originally I was thinking that we could maybe just focus on the industrial, like Lake Road corridor, but Jansen said if we were going to do it, he felt a study for that would benefit the entire city would be the way to go. On the RCA, I had put a placeholder dollar figure of $80,000, and in some follow-up research, realized that that's way more than what we would need. This study is more like estimated to be at $50,000 to $60,000 with a 20% match from the city of Medina. So that match would be somewhere in the $10,000 to $12,000 range. And we do have the available funds in the JED fund. And this is a reimbursable grant. So if we were to apply for it this fall, we would get notified in the spring, and then that study would take about a year to complete. We pay for it up front and then show proof of the invoices, and then we would get reimbursed for that 80%. Now, in the past, some of these grants, if you offer more match dollars, you score higher on the grant application. We haven't seen the guidelines come out yet, and we haven't seen the application come out yet, so we don't really know what that program is going to look like. But my thought was I wanted to at least discuss it with council this evening, and then once the application comes out, then we would bring it back to all of you for further discussion and to vote on it.
Thank you. I think that your willingness to use the JED funds is helpful.
I know, I was thinking that too.
Yes. So, I mean, I guess I'm open to the idea. I mean, you believe that's a strong enough economic development tool for the industrial area. I mean, why not, I guess?
I think the other thing too, I would just like to note, we have started some initial conversations with the business and industry folks out there and have so far received a lot of like, yeah, we're interested, we want to know more, we want to be helpful. And I also talked to a company that is interested if we were, so first we would have to do the planning grant and then look at implementation. On that implementation piece, there is a company that's interested in donating materials, which would help reduce the cost. I mean, that would be probably 3 or 4 years down the road. So, but the point is that business and industry are interested in the project.
Is everybody okay with moving ahead with that to get more information?
Yes.
Yes.
I just have a quick question about it, and I don't know if you know this or not. So we're doing 20% local match with the grants, but is the county kicking in anything? Because if you're going to go all the way to U of A, then the university center is outside Medina City, correct?
The scope of the study would be just the city trails, but the goal would be how to connect those trails to the county.
Okay.
Originally, I was thinking that the county would apply for this grant, but Nate felt like the city should take the lead on it, but they do want to be supportive of it. I don't know that they really have the funds to kick in towards this because they have a ton of other projects on their plate. So rather than hold this up, the matching funds I do have available in that JED account, and so I just felt like if we could get letters of support from Nate, and he already committed to doing that.
I guess my other question would be, that goes into Lafayette Township, correct?
Yes.
The university center?
Yeah.
So are they for their portion after the county does, or is that just the county's problem, not ours? How they decide to do that section of it?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And we have a long way before we get there, but I love the way that you're thinking ahead. Really, the whole idea, this was actually brought up at one of our business visits, one of our manufacturing companies, because people are literally either walking on Lake Road, so they have to navigate all the truck traffic, or they're cutting through the front yards of all these different businesses. So either way, it's not really safe.
Yeah.
And so the question really came out, hey, could you build sidewalks? Well, sidewalks are very expensive, and you typically can't get grants for that. I said, well, let's just call it a multi-purpose trail, and that opens it up for more grant dollars. So that's kind of how the whole thing started and came out.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay, we'll gather more information and bring it back, and sounds like we would like to hear some more about it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else to come before finance before we recess into executive session?
If not, I'll make a motion to go into executive session for conferences with the law director of the city concerning disputes involving the city that are subject to pending or imminent court action, to include the mayor and the law director.
Second.
Any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Motion passed.
We'll be recessing the executive session to discuss imminent litigation. We'll be coming out of executive session, taking no action of any item discussed in executive session. We'll adjourn finance and move on to council. We are in recess.